Pass the 40 pass the 40 cause my mother's not looking.
What's going on, everyone? We're back with another episode of Pass the 40. My guest today is McIntosh. Mac, how's it going?
It's going pretty well. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. Where are you joining us from?
I'm calling in from Los Angeles. I'm currently in a phone booth. I work at Netflix, and so I'm chatting in a 2 by 10 foot space.
I've heard of Los Angeles, and I have heard of that small little up-and-comer Netflix that you mentioned.
Yes, we're scrappy.
A lot of potential there. So you're in a phone booth in the Netflix offices.
That's right.
All right.
That's right.
And what kind of phone booth is this? This is where you go to make calls and be quiet?
Yep. Go to make calls, be quiet, not bug my my open area desk mates. You know, they don't always have the same respect, but I try.
And now it is a space for 40-year-olds to talk about life and stuff.
That's right. That's right.
How are you feeling about that?
I feel pretty good about it. The whole year turning from 39 to 40, I was bound and determined not to be disappointed or bummed about it. I feel like I'm the kind of person that I never wanted to rush getting older. Like, I didn't even want to rush becoming 21. I didn't want to rush getting my driver's license, like none of that stuff. But it doesn't matter whether you wanted to rush it or not. It comes anyway.
It's happening. It's
unavoidable.
Right?
Yeah.
Time is undefeated.
Totally. So I figured I should just do my best to go into it gracefully and not worry too much.
Awesome. Let's talk more about all of it. If you're ready to go, I am ready to start.
I am.
All right. Number 1, your name, McIntosh. Tell me more.
Yeah. So Mac, obviously, nickname, came from my last name, McIntosh. My real first name is Lucia, Lucia.
Really?
That is my mother's name, and it's also my grandmother's name. And I'm like the 12th or 13th Lucia in like a line of women. And so anyway, there's 3 of us living. And when I was little, I obviously lived with my mother and we lived by my grandmother. And so to keep it simple, I got a nickname. And so I'm also an only child. Potentially my dad wanted a boy. I don't know. I'm not going to get into the psychology of that.
Right.
But they called me Mac when I was little. And so it stuck. I tried sort of changing it post-college, like, I got my first real job. I'm gonna be real enough. But I don't. That's like Lucia's my mother's name. Mm-hmm. So here I am, 40 years old, and I've got a truck driver name.
I dig it. So do any of the other Lucias in your lineage have nicknames, or everyone just went by Lucia and you're breaking the mold?
No. So it's funny because my mom is also Lucia, and she goes by Lucia in her regular life. But her family all calls her sister because she's the oldest of the sisters. So she kind of has a family nickname. But for the most part, everyone I think has gone by Lucia. It has been a middle name in the past also. So that was a potential. But I got it as a first name and never have used it. Not
to dig too deep on this, but what's the significance of Lucia? Why is that the one?
I don't know. I really have no idea. I mean, we're Italian, so it came from that. But I don't know. I mean, I think it goes back so far. I think it's like one person named their next daughter Lucia, and I imagine the Italian guilt just set in so strong
right.
that nobody wanted to screw it up. Now, here's the kicker is that I'm 40 and I don't have children, and I'm probably not going to have children. So it apparently ends with me.
All right.
So I like to look at it on the positive side in that I think I have prevented from, any of my kids from feeling pressure of having to pass on this name that we don't even know where it came from.
You're a self-described dog flirter. How many dogs do you have? And do your dogs get jealous with all the flirting that you're doing?
Let's see. I have 2 dogs. We've got Daphne. She's a little Papillon mix. And then we have Roscoe, who is a literal stray who ran down our street and right into our lives.
Amazing.
But I've always had dogs growing up, tons of dogs. When we first got Daphne, we actually had I say we, because my husband and I, we had a Great Dane. And so we had this giant white Great Dane and then this tiny little dog who we only got because we thought we were fostering her, but she was so cute we couldn't let her go. So that's the deal with the dogs. We also do a little side business where my husband watches dogs during the day. He works from home. And so we've got a little side hustle going on. We watch dogs, and our buddy Roscoe does not get jealous of anybody typically. He's a friend to all. And Daphne is more like a cat, so she could really care less. Like, don't bug her.
Nice.
So no jealousy with all my flirting.
When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
You know, it's funny. I don't have any recollection of a specific thing. My mom was a nurse and my grandmother was a nurse. So in theory, Lucia's could have been nurses. So I did kind of always want to do something maybe medical. But nothing, it's funny. I think I ended up doing what I'm doing because I really like to kind of be behind the scenes and help people. I'm an executive assistant. I hope I'm not getting ahead of myself here. But I never had any like huge dreams. You know, when I went to college, I thought about, I imagined that I'd be like walking down like Wall Street with a handbag and a, briefcase and high heels. But it turns out I really don't like wearing skirts and heels. So it wasn't in the cards for me. And I sort of tried going the corporate route, and there were just so many spreadsheets. And so anyway, yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't for you. Which do you love more, Northern California or Southern California?
Oh my gosh, that is so hard to say.
I thought you might answer that way.
Yeah. I think I'm from Northern California, sort of. So I'm supposed to say that's my favorite, and we're not supposed to like each other. But I have been obsessed with Southern California forever. I always wanted to move down here. So I'm going to go with Southern California more because I think that it is, if you've been to both, you might expect that one would love Northern California more because it's got like big trees and, San Francisco, which has amazing food. But I think Southern California has kind of a surprising and unexpected different little hidden things. You can find a lot of cool stuff down here that you didn't know about.
What part of Northern California did you grow up in?
Yeah, so my mom lives just outside of San Francisco, about 45 minutes. So kind of Bay Area. And then I lived in San Francisco for forever, from college until about 7 years ago.
What are you most excited about right now?
Let's see. Well, I'm a big runner, so I'm kind of on a rest and recovery period. So I'm most excited right now about not waking up really early to go running every day. Yeah. So I'm most excited about like getting massages and resting and recovering from kind of a long season of training. How
many marathons / ultra races? I'm not sure how you qualify that.
Yeah, sure.
Have you run?
Not a ton of them because I've only really been running seriously for about 5 years. But I've probably done, I guess, maybe 5 or 6 marathons. And then the ultra marathon, for people who don't know, that's something farther than a marathon. And of those, I've done, a couple 50Ks and then a few 50 milers and a couple 100Ks. And then I've done 200-300 milers. So, yeah, 300 milers? Why can I not remember in this moment? I think I'm losing oxygen in this phone booth. So.
We're just getting started. This could go off the rails pretty quickly. How did you celebrate your 40th birthday?
Let's see. It's funny. I thought I had all these different plans. I was trying to go really big with it. And then because I do planning sort of for a living, in the end, I ended up having a party at my house, and it was absolutely the best thing I did. I loved my birthday so much. So I had probably about 40 people. That's funny. I didn't actually think of that until just now. That about 40 people.
On brand, very on brand.
I know, right. And I was like, I don't want to cook or anything because I always end up in the kitchen. So we ended up getting Mexican food catered. It was amazing. The food was so good. I had a fun playlist that I picked that had lots to do with blonde hair and 40-year-old. I just did a search through Spotify and tried to make connections. It was pretty funny. And it was just great. I felt like I have a really great network, lots of really good friends. And so I felt like very celebrated and really just so happy.
Awesome. That's the way it should be. Let's say you had to go on a long road trip from LA to Austin, Texas, and you have to bring 3 people with you. Who's going to be in that car? And it cannot be family members.
Okay.
And no one named Lucia is allowed to be in that car.
No problem. Let's see. I would love to bring some kind of foodie. So my 2 favorite foodies, unfortunately, both have passed away, but Anthony Bourdain, probably don't need to explain who he is. And then Jonathan Gold, who people may or may not know, but he was a Los Angeles food writer and kind of like he made all kinds of food worthy of being written about. So everything from taco trucks and street food to really elegant places. So I'd want one of those guys along because I feel like they could help me figure out like good places to eat, which I love doing.
They can bring snacks.
Yeah, they could help pack the snacks. And I think also Anthony Bourdain specifically seems like he'd be a really good traveler just because obviously he was like into adventure. So those guys, one of them. And then I'd love to bring my best friend. She lives in San Diego and we don't hang out enough. So it would be super fun to bring her. We always have a good time together. And then I think my third person would probably be my friend Bree, who is, I like to call her my millennial friend. She is amazing she can Insta story and Instagram like nobody's business. We run together a lot and she will be on her phone like Insta storying while we're running and somehow manages not to fall or hit anything or run into signs. So I would bring her because she could really document our journey.
So you have the whole trip documented. You have great snacks, and you have your best friend. That sounds like a winning formula.
It would be amazing.
That best friend from San Diego. What 3 words would she use to describe you?
I think that she would say badass because she has used that to describe me before.
Nice.
Probably sporty and fun.
Badass, sporty, and fun. Sounds pretty solid. If I followed up and said, how would she fill in this following sentence? I love Mac. She is the best, but I wish she were a little less blank.
Let's see. Probably a little less. Oh gosh. Whatever the negative of being overly organized is, like, I'm too particular. I'm probably too particular about stuff.
Like in an OCD type of way?
Yeah, like if we're going to go eat somewhere, I have to spend way too long to find the perfect place to eat. Yeah, it's that kind of.
Do you look at the menu before you go so you know in advance?
We've looked at the menu. We've read the Yelp reviews. We've phoned a friend. Done all the research. Got my top 3 choices. Yeah. But which is good, but also it's like it lacks a bit of spontaneity.
What is something that hangs on the wall in your home?
Let's see. I have a really cool, my husband gave me last year for our anniversary. It's a constellation, piece of art, constellation of like the day that we got married. And then it has a little quote on it from our wedding vows, which is pretty cool.
That's very cool.
And I think that anniversary was wood. And so it's, framed in wood. So anyway, he's very creative.
It sounds like a thoughtful dude. That's the type of gift I would give. That's a good job by him.
That's great. Yeah,
good job.
Well done.
Is this why I know that I know your handle is star filled? So is the constellations in the sky something that you're very interested in?
Yeah, I am not in like a hokey like astrology sort of way, but just like the vastness of the universe. And I actually got Star-Filled Mac from, there's this artist called Sark, and she makes these really colorful, colorful art pieces, basically. And I read this book by her once, and it was, it had a page, and you read a bunch of words, and it was like, think of a few words that describe you. And it had things like, fun, inventive, whatever, that sort of thing. But one of them said star-filled, and I was like, that is fucking awesome. Like, that's who I want to be. So I chose Star. So that was, I don't know, I was probably 20 or something at the time. And so Star-Filled Mac just became like hopefully who I am, but if not who I am, who I aspire to be.
I was going to say, do you think you've done that moniker justice since you discovered
It
it?
depends on the day. It depends on the day.
What is the worst job you've ever had?
Let's see.
And you can't answer Netflix just to save the...
Yeah, no, this is one of the best jobs I've ever had, so I'm not going to say that. The free lunches alone here make it pretty much the best. I've done a lot of like around the house work, so I'm gonna not do those things either, like stacking wood and stuff. I'm gonna just avoid the family jobs. So I think the worst job I ever had wasn't actually the job itself, but rather the clientele I had to deal with.
Okay.
And that was when I worked at Ann Taylor, and it was in San Francisco downtown. And I was just like freshman in college, just finding my way. And these women would come in there. They were all lawyers. They all worked in this like giant tower. And it was just the most painful job. None of them wanted to be the size they were. They didn't want to give me their driver's license because then I would know how old they were. It was just like, it was the most, I'm like, I don't care. Just, I'm 20, you're 45. Like, to me, that seemed so far away. Like, can you just let me run the transaction? Anyway, they were just very difficult women. And I think from that moment, I was like, I'm never going to be that kind of woman. Right?
That's why that's why you didn't want to be on Wall Street in the heels and the skirt anymore.
Get rid of those heels and the skirt and the briefcase because those women are just, they weren't having enough fun. They were too concerned with like what they looked like, you know.
I grew up on Long Island and I've lived in the city for 20 years in New York, so I know I know those ladies very well.
Yes, you do.
If you could give a TED talk on any subject, what would it be?
I think I don't find myself to be an expert at very much, but I would say probably resilience. Definitely through my running career over the last few years, it's something that comes up a lot. That, you know, if you're having a hard time, you have to just keep going because there's a reward at the end of that typically. So I think resilience, like just talking about like how to kind of push through barriers and do more than you think you're capable of.
So when you're in one of those moments, do you have a go-to in your head where you're like, all right, now I need to push through, so I say this mantra or this line or this thought to yourself to kind of push you through?
It's funny. It's making me think of a story, which is that a few weekends ago, is it okay to swear on this podcast, by the way?
Fuck yeah.
Just making sure. So I was doing this hike with some friends. And it was a run, but it was so steep and we were at altitude, so it was really just a hike. And it was 5 peaks. We were climbing all over these mountains, and it was really intense. And I'm just going to say a very colorful phrase, which is we referred to this mountain as the cuntiest of the bitches because it was just so hard. We were like been going for 7 hours. We were exhausted. And we all had races coming up. So I was joking that was going to be my new mantra. The Sea of the Bees was my new mantra that I would just say to myself. So I did, during my last race, refer to that thought when I was climbing this mountain. So I don't really have any like super positive, like, yeah, this is awesome. But I do have that.
Listen, doesn't have to be positive. Whatever gets you through that next step.
It makes me laugh, and really I feel bringing levity to situations is typically more helpful for me than like, you know, getting too deep into it.
What are you curious about these days?
I'm curious about so many things, but I think right now I've always wanted to meditate. I've stopped and started meditation, you know, a million different times. So I would really like to sort of push through and see what happens when I actually make a concerted effort to meditate. Like, will I really get star-filled? Will I get enlightened? Like, does that stuff actually happen? Will I feel more calm? Any of those things. I would take any of them.
It's worth a shot. I don't know what methods you've tried in the past, but you know, I try to do there's 10 minutes even of like guided meditation with like the Calm app.
Oh yeah. Okay. Calm app. Good.
Yeah.
See, I'm taking notes now.
Good. I'm glad I can provide some value here. What would you have for your last meal?
Oh my gosh. Probably my mom's manicotti. She makes this really good manicotti. and an ice cream cake, like those Yule log style ones with the ice cream in the middle. Oh, I'd eat the whole thing.
What flavor ice cream?
When it's in the cake form, I have to say cookies and cream. Yeah. It's not necessarily my choice when it's in just plain ice cream form. I do love it, but just saying, when it's an ice cream cake, that's the way to go.
Fair enough. What's a great piece of advice that you were given that has made a dent and an impact and stuck with you?
Sure. My life right now is so obsessed with running, so it's going to be another running reference. But a friend of mine, this guy Jimmy, and I'm sure other people have said it, but it's kind of the thing he said to me once was, "What can I do right now?" Which applies in a real sense to, like, if you're running a trail race and you get a rock in your shoe and you've got a headache and you're hungry, like, what can you do right now? Well, there's like specific things you could do. Take the rock out, eat a snack, right? But I kind of think that it applies just to life in general. You know, I find myself getting overwhelmed at work, and like I've got lots of competing interests, lots of requests coming in. So I'm always like, okay, well, what can I do right now? And sometimes that's to tackle the big project that I don't really want to tackle. And sometimes it's like, oh, just do this one little thing and it'll like make it go away. So I apply that, what can I do right now, just all over my life.
Very important in terms of getting the right things done. You know, it's like, do the right,
Yes.
do you do the things right, or you do the right things? And like that one little thing can be like the force multiplier that just makes everything else kind of not that big
For
of a deal.
sure. And I find myself, I mean, I think we all do sometimes. You get like paralyzed, and then I'm like, well, now I'm not doing anything.
Totally.
So just do something.
Absolutely. What do you complain about more than anything else?
Oh my gosh. I really like complaining, so this is tough. Probably I want to do like, it's not point A, it's point like 1A. So it's not LA traffic per se, because that's just like, it's living in the United States. I feel like there's traffic everywhere. So I don't complain about LA traffic, but I complain about specific LA drivers that just make me insane. I mean, these drivers exist everywhere in the world, but I just happen to encounter them because I live in this city. Oh, just like lack of signaling. I mean, my road rage behind the wheel. I'm a very nice person, but man, I'm like instant Jersey girl behind the wheel. My husband hates driving with me because I'm like screaming at people, but in the car, I'm not like, they don't know that I'm mad at them.
You're not roll the window down, stick up the finger, and get into it.
Yeah. I like to tell him too that I know it sounds like I'm really angry, but it's like just what I do when I get behind the wheel. I'm not actually like, I'm not feeling the anger, if that makes sense. Yeah. So anyway, drivers. That's my biggest complaint.
Who is your celebrity crush?
Let's see. You'd think working at Netflix I'd have a million celebrity crushes because I see people around here. But honestly, I'm going to go back in time and say Christian Slater from Pump Up the Volume. Oh man, I had the biggest crush on that guy. It was like trench coat and he was like bad boy. Loved it.
Wow, that's a nice pull.
Thanks.
What makes a great cup of coffee?
Well, first you have to go to Cafe Lux here in LA. They have a couple locations in my neighborhood. So if you use their beans and their baristas, then you get a good cup of coffee.
What neighborhood is that?
Well, they're mostly on the west side. So they've got a few locations in Brentwood. They've got one in Malibu, Pacific Palisades. Yeah. But generally, it's funny, I love coffee, but I tend to drink either like the fanciest stuff. I'm a cappuccino person, and so it has to be like really fancy, or I love diner coffee. Like I don't want anything in between. I don't want Starbucks or Pete's or, like those kind of little coffee shops that make like the crepes and stuff and they say they have cappuccinos. Like none of that. It has to be like Italian style or like Folgers that's been like sitting there for 3 days.
Nice. Who comes to mind when you think of the word successful?
Successful. That's a good one. I used to work with this woman. Her name is Patricia, and she was a former boss. And she's now, I'm actually not going to say how old she is, but she's an older woman. And I think I have always found her to be very successful because she's kind of reinvented herself a bunch of times. When I met her, we were both working in San Francisco. And she was like, she was the lady with the briefcase and the nice outfit, but she was very pleasant and lovely to be around. And she kind of rebuilt a brand. We used to work in advertising. So she rebuilt a brand there in San Francisco. And then she moved to New York and did the same thing there. And then she moved up to Seattle and did it up there. And now she is kind of doing her own thing, like consulting and whatnot. So anyway, I find I really appreciate the bravery of someone kind of packing up their life and being confident enough in their own abilities to, do that, to move someplace else and kick ass there too.
No doubt. That works for me. If you could have a drink with one fictional character, who would that be?
I think I would say, it's tough because I really want to say President Obama because he looks so funny and like endearing, and also he's so smart. So I kind of want to say him, but he seems like a gimme. So I'm going to go with Julia Child because yes,
the question was fictional. So
fictional. So it couldn't be.
Right. So then I was like Obama. Right. I want to answer Obama for every single answer anyone ever asks me. They're like, hey, how you doing today? And I'm like, Obama. But it just doesn't really make sense. So.
But it doesn't really make sense.
Let's go another way.
Yeah. See, I got so excited about it. Let's see, fictional character. That's tough. I read this book when I was a kid. What was the name of it though? Oh gosh, now I need my Google machine. This is the problem. What was the name of that book? Bridge to Terabithia. Sorry.
Nice poem.
Give me a minute. Yeah, thanks. It was my favorite book, and I read it a bunch of times. It made me cry. And then in college, I reread it. I found it in the college library. But anyway, if I could, I would love to meet those kids in that book. Just because my little kid self was so, obsessed with that book.
Say it again, the Bridge to Terabithia?
Terabithia. Bridge to Terabithia.
All right. What's a piece of advice you would give to your 20-year-old self?
I think I would say, to just be brave. I think I spent a lot of life, energy, and time worrying what other people thought, and also second guessing myself. And more often than not, when I just sort of followed my heart and did what I wanted to do, it worked out just fine. So yeah, I think I'd say be brave.
It seems to be a common answer in these interviews of people just being very worried at the age of 20. Like everyone's relax to themselves, or, it's going to be okay, or don't worry so much, or something along those lines.
Yeah. Well, it's you get older and then you kind of realize that, other than my parents, nobody was looking at anything I was doing anyway. You always feel like everybody's judging you all the time, but they're so busy in their own lives judging themselves.
They're worried about people judging them.
Yes, exactly.
Do you have a go-to karaoke song?
Do I have? No, mostly because I don't do karaoke. But let's see, if I was going to do karaoke, the one time I actually did it live, it was me and a bunch of girls, and we naturally sang Like a Virgin, because I think that's what you do when you're a group of girls in a foreign country.
That's what I do.
Yeah, so.
What is something that you've tried that you'll never try again?
Monkfish.
How come? Not a good experience?
Yeah. I ate a really fancy dinner at a really fancy restaurant, and it was one of those things where, you don't get a choice necessarily what gets brought to the table. And I had that monkfish, and I just remember going home and, I felt so sick to my stomach. And then I looked up what the fish looked like. It's horrible.
Not a good idea.
Don't look it up because you'll never want to eat it either. There was a reason why I felt sick.
So you got sick from it, or did you think it was disgusting as you were tasting it?
It was so rich, I think, is the problem. Maybe it's a fatty fish. I don't know. But yeah, after I ate it, I felt, yes, I was feeling very sick. And then I was like, oh, what could it have been? What did we eat at that meal? I was like, I wonder what monkfish is. Look it up. Oh, no wonder. It was definitely that.
If you won the lottery tomorrow, what are 3 things that you would do with the money?
Well, it would really depend how much money I won.
Tons that allow you to do.
Tons of money.
Yeah, okay, piles.
Right. In that case, I could definitely afford to buy a house.
Oh, yes.
I live in LA.
You can buy 10 houses.
Okay, great. So I'd probably buy a house because I rent and I would love to live in my own home. It doesn't have to be a big house even. I would probably buy my dad a house because I'd like for him to have a house. Really lofty things here. And then I would start like a puppy or dog rescue organization because I love dogs and
Awesome.
I want them to have houses too.
All dogs, they should all have houses. I'm with you.
They should. They should.
What's the best concert you've ever been to?
Oh man, I've been to so many great shows. I love live music. But most recently, just on Saturday night, I just saw David Byrne in concert, which was incredible. It was like one of the best shows I've ever seen. They started the show. There was a really great opening act, and then they used those big push brooms, like the ones with the fuzzy things on it, to like dust the whole floor in between the two acts. And I was like, that's funny. I've never seen that happen at a rock concert before. But then all of the David Byrne people, like him and all the other people, were barefoot the whole show. They were wearing like gray suits, like men's suits with no shoes on. So I was like, oh, they didn't want to step on anything on the stage.
Right, or slip.
Anyway, there was amazing music. The lighting was incredible. He's just so artistic. And yeah, it was just incredible.
Good thing that we didn't speak last week. Otherwise, I don't know how you would have answered this question. This just happened on Saturday.
Well, then I would have just said the show I saw previously, which was Bon Iver, who was also totally amazing. So
every show you see is like the best thing ever, essentially. no matter what I ask, it's whatever was the last show you saw.
Yes, I pick really good shows.
If you could have personally witnessed an event in history, what would you want to go back and see?
Let's see. I would... God, there's so many great things. I don't know. It's funny. It's like I kind of want to see things that seem a little more boring, like the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Like that could be really interesting, just because you have a collection of all of these people in one room. So that would be amazing. But I think I'd rather see something more fun, like some kind of like I don't know, Bob Barker on the what is the show he did?
Price is Right.
The Price is Right. Like I would have liked to see that. Really, any of his shows. He's so entertaining.
You're just a Bob Barker fan?
Yeah, Bob Barker fan. Heck yeah,
sure.
Love it.
Who isn't? Big Happy Gilmore fan?
Yeah, sure.
What's a skill that you want to acquire in the next 40 years of life?
Well, let's see. I'd love to learn to speak a foreign language again. We all learn it in school and then...
But not really, yeah.
But not really, yeah. And also, I took French in high school, and then in college, I studied abroad in Costa Rica, so I had to, take Spanish when I was there. So now I just sort of mush the two all together in my head, which is...
They're close-ish.
They're pretty close, yeah. But my brain will, fill in vocabulary from one or the other, so my sentence, it's messy.
So which one or other would you go to?
Yeah, I think, I just love French so much because it's so beautiful, but Spanish is a lot more practical just because of where we live.
For sure.
So I'd probably say Spanish because I would also love to live in Spain at some point. I think that would be awesome. So I'm going to say the skill I'd like to acquire, learning Spanish.
Looking back, what is something that your parents or parent did really well?
Let's see. My mom did a great job of inadvertently teaching me how to be a good cook. So she is very creative in the kitchen, like kind of Iron Chef style. So open up the refrigerator. What the hell do we have in here? We've got a can of corn and some green beans and, some tortillas. Anyway, so she gave me that skill. I'm really good at putting a meal together out of random ingredients. Yeah. That's
an incredible skill. It's something that I wish I had because I feel like I waste way too much food. I mean, I cook a lot, but I'm never that creative. And my wife and I have a friend, one of her best friends, who's exactly like that. She's like, "Oh, what are we having for breakfast?" All right, I'll just throw all these things and make this awesome frittata.
Yeah.
I don't think to do that.
It's funny for my husband's 40th birthday. I actually got him in conjunction with our two mothers. I got him cooking lessons. And the idea was just that he likes to cook, and I thought it would be fun for him. As it turns out, as a side benefit, it's been really good for me because he cooks for me.
Great.
But I think it gave him a lot of confidence in the kitchen, so he's become more like me in that he can look at ingredients and make things up. So maybe you just need to take a cooking class.
I've taken some.
Okay. Well,
I've taken some.
maybe there's no hope then.
Yeah, I'm out. Would you rather live 25 more years with no regrets or 50 years with many?
Oh, God. I mean, I already have so many regrets built up. I might as well just go with the full
Just keep
50.
it going.
Just keep it going. You're going to die anyway, so.
What's the difference between 20 regrets and 50 regrets? Who cares?
Yeah, it's all the same.
What is your response to people that say running is really bad for your body?
Oh, God. I mean, yeah, I obviously disagree. And so my real response is typically most people say it's really bad for your knees. That's what people always say. It's bad for your knees. And so I would argue that maybe for some people it is bad for their knees, but for the most part, it's
Not for
running.
yours.
Yeah, not for mine. It's typically not bad for people's bodies, especially if they take care of themselves, do strength training, stretch out properly, don't build up too fast. Like there's all sorts of rules you kind of need to take into account, I think, before you just start running, you know? So
you're feeling pretty good.
I feel pretty good. I saw an orthopedist. He did some incidental x-rays of my knees and was like, "You've got perfect knees." I'm like, "Okay, great. I'm going to keep on running then."
It's always good to hear that, the reassurance from a
Yes.
professional.
From the inside out also.
For sure. What are you afraid of?
What am I afraid of? Well, since I'm a runner, I'm really afraid of water. Not water, but the ocean is terrifying. I mean, only if I were like dropped in the middle of it and the boat left me. I like to go to the ocean and I like to walk into the ocean, but I'm more of like, just thigh deep and then I'm good.
So you said because you're a runner, but you've only been a runner for 5 years, as you said. So where did the ocean, like, was it always an ocean fear?
Yeah,
or
yeah. I mean, I've only been a serious runner for 5 years, but I've always been a runner. I've run since I was in elementary school. But yeah, I mean, just generally speaking, I've never been a big water person. I feel like, I'd go to the pool, and when I was pretty young, my older friend like pushed me under and held me under, and kind of ever since then I've had like water freaks me out because you're so out of control, Yeah,
I mean, so yours isn't just ocean, yours is water.
Yeah.
Period.
It's more ocean because there you have the added element of like sharks and danger and jellyfish and things like that. And like being disoriented, like not knowing your way back. Because I can swim to save myself, but what if I swim in the wrong direction? So many opportunities for it to go bad.
I'm very much on the same page with you here in regards to the ocean, not pools. I like pools a lot.
Yeah.
But like one place I never want to be is alone at sea.
Right. Oh,
that idea, that concept just like really scares the shit out of me. And I have an incredible respect for the ocean, and
Yes.
I'm just not sure that like we're supposed to be there.
No, I don't think so. We have two legs that are unwebbed feet for a reason.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
that's people's homes, and like I'm not sure they really are inviting us in.
No, they didn't want us in there. I also like pools, especially if there's lounge chairs and like fruity cocktails. I'm a fan.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't even know about a pool without those things. Well, what's a book that everyone should read?
Let's see. One of my favorite of all time is My Life in France by Julia Child. Another woman who kind of reinvented herself when she was around 40 and completely changed her life, learned how to cook, became this really amazing instrumental professional cook. I don't want to say chef because she wasn't really a chef, but
Right.
Anyway, it's a great book, fun story, romantic, that sort of thing.
Do you have thoughts or dreams of reinventing yourself later in life?
Sometimes, yeah, I think about that it'd be like I love what I do, but I don't necessarily want to do it forever. And I also just think that I've seen so many examples of people, especially because we live longer, transitioning over and over and over in their life, like having all these different phases. And so I'm always thinking like, well, I'm probably not going to be doing this forever. So there's got to be something else.
Right.
So
What's it
I'm trying to
going to
think
be? Yeah.
what's going to be.
Sure. What is a quirk of yours that few people know about?
A quirk of mine that few people know about. Let's see. Maybe with the thing about when you asked about my best friend, I think that I might be OCD just slightly. So my desk at work, like, I don't think people would notice this normally at home, but like at work, when I sit down, it's like I arrange the phone just so, I put my, AirPod things just so, get my water glass. Like, I just like to have everything in its place.
Spot. Yeah.
Yes. But I don't know if other people actually notice that I'm doing that. Like if things aren't lined up and I'm like, scoot it over just one hair.
Yeah. My guess is nobody notices.
I don't think so. I try to make it not so obvious.
If you could relive a single day from your past exactly as it happened the first time through, what would you want to experience all over again?
Man, that's tough because I don't really want to live. I don't want to think too much about living in the past because there's always new things to have.
It's just a day. Just one day.
Just a day. It's just one day. And at first I was thinking like, oh, maybe I would want to relive that feeling of when I like crossed the finish line at a 100-mile race, because there's just like nothing like it that I've ever experienced. But then that made me think it's a day and I'd have to do all of that hard work to get to that feeling again. So
Right.
I'm going to pass on that one, even though it's pretty pinnacle. And I think I might actually say reliving my 40th birthday again.
Awesome.
Because I had so much fun and it was so it's so hard, especially as we get older, to get all of our friends together in one place. So the fact that I had most of the key people in my life together in one place and they were all celebrating me and I got presents and there was cake, it was pretty awesome.
Right. No downside there whatsoever.
No. And I kind of felt like I was having like the birthday party that I dreamed about having when I was 10, but I just had to wait 30 more years and got it when I was 40 because I could afford to have it. And
Right.
I had enough friends by that point.
Yeah, there are a lot of things that we did younger that we should be doing now that just makes a lot more sense to do as a 40-year-old instead of a 20-year-old or a 10-year-old.
100%.
What's a great compliment that someone has given you that has really stuck with you?
Let's see. I think that I have been told before I feel like, okay, different places in my life, but one thing would be at work. I've had coworkers and bosses previously refer to me as loyal, and I really like that because it's important to me that I, especially in my job, that they know that I'm here for them. But on a more light side, when I was in high school, they invented a category for our yearbook, and it was best legs. You know how there's like
all the superlatives, yes.
Yeah, all the superlatives. And so I got best legs, which was not a category that existed before. And so
they invented it for you.
Yeah. So that felt like a pretty big compliment. And that, I'm telling you, has carried me through my life.
Clearly, 25 years later,
Yeah,
and we're still talking about it.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it was a very peak experience for me.
Listen, they make a category for you. It must be serious.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a photo in the yearbook that says it, so there's really no doubt.
Well, what is something that all 40-year-olds listening should go and do or try?
I would say that if you aren't already, you should go be active. I feel like being active, no matter what it is, whether it's, outside hiking or going to yoga classes or taking Pilates or taking up tennis, whatever it is, I just think that being active has been, again, over the past 5 years, kind of the most important thing in my life. And I see my parents who are aging and they're, mid 70s, and I see what a life of inactivity can do, and I don't want to be there. So I think that if you haven't started, now is the time. Go be active. And ideally, if you can do it outside, because there's so much beauty to see in the world. And that's what I love about going outside and doing my activity. So anyway, that's my thing. Yeah.
There's a lot of time left. It can't be an excuse of,
No.
I'm past the point. It's we got 50 years left. Let's go,
That's
guys.
the thing. And if you start now, then you'll be fine by the time you're 80. But if you try to start when you're 60, it'll be a little harder.
Right. A little tougher, for sure.
Like the present. If
you could work for any person in the world, what job would you want and who would be the boss?
I would want to work at a pastry tasting factory. Like the taste tester at a French bakery. Is that a job?
You'd have to fight my wife for it. That's all I know.
Maybe there's enough bakeries to go around. I would
Could be
also
a chain,
take
a bakery chain.
I'd also take a chocolate, quality control at the chocolate factory. And in that case, I guess that means that Charlie is my boss. I don't know. Anyway, but boss wise, it's tough. There's, I'm sure, lots of great leaders out there. I have been really fortunate to work for several of them. So anyway, I don't want to name names, but I know some good people. I'd like to work with them.
If you were hosting this podcast, what is a question you would want to ask other 40-year-olds?
I think that I would want to ask, like, how... I kind of feel like how do you continue to set goals, or what are you looking forward to in your life? Because I think so many of us, a lot of people reach 40 and it's like, okay, I've gotten here. I'm good. I did all the things. Or maybe some people haven't done the things and they're still trying to do the things. But I think I'm just curious. I love people's stories and how they got to where they are. And like, no matter if they're famous or just someone like me, like a nobody, I want to know what people are and how they got to where they are. So I'm curious about other people and their goals. Like, are they still pursuing things? Are there still things out there that they're like wanting to achieve?
Are you still pursuing things? And are there things out there that you want to achieve?
Heck yeah. So many things. I mean, besides learning Spanish, which I'm trying to get started. I've got the Duolingo app and the meditation. I'm trying to do both of those two things. Yeah, I mean, I've got some big races upcoming that are going to be fairly challenging that I'm wanting to work on those. And then other things like I'm super interested in travel. So I'd like to go get back into traveling because I feel like I did a lot of it when I was in my younger 20s and 30s, and then life and lack of money and realizing that my credit card wasn't like really my best friend made me tamp down on that a bit. And so now that I'm in a much more financially secure place, I'd love to start traveling again and maybe doing some of my running activities out there. So Those are the goals, like go see stuff, go do stuff.
I bet there are 100 miles somewhere in Spain that you can just kind of run from point A to point B, and there you go.
Totally. Next weekend, there's a huge race in France called Ultra Trail du Mont Blanc. You can follow it all Labor Day weekend. People are circumnavigating a big, crazy mountain there. So
awesome.
You can run anywhere.
All right. One more question for you as we've flown through the 40 here. What song did you choose to finish up this episode today, and why did you choose it?
Sure. So a War on Drugs song, mostly because they are... I could have chosen any of their songs, by the way, but I chose Up All Night because it's like when I go running, I'm often up all night. But I love their music. It's so wide open and spacious, and it just makes me think of like, I don't know. It's beautiful. I'm a big fan.
Why are you up all night when you go running?
Well, when you run 100 miles, it takes longer than
when you do 100
24
miles.
hours.
So now running 100 miles and just running are the same?
Basically. Yes. No. I mean, no. But yeah, so anyway, I really love them because I feel like it's a great band. I've seen them live several times. They make me really happy. It's big music. It's made for amphitheaters or earbuds out in the middle of nowhere.
Right. Awesome. Thank you very much. Where can people check you out or ask you about running or find you online?
Sure. I'm at Starfield Mac on Instagram and on Twitter. I'm also on Facebook. My profile's pretty public, just McIntosh. You have to sort through. There's a couple big white dudes that don't look anything like me. So just got to look for the blonde girl in running clothes, and then you'll know it's me. And then also I'm on Strava as well. So if anyone wanted to follow me that way, that's like a sporty app that you could find me on.
Very cool. Thank you, Mac. I appreciate your time here today.
Thank you, Chris. It was super fun.
It sure was. Thanks, everyone, for listening on the latest episode of Past the 40 with McIntosh. Thanks again.